No. I'm not saying I'm a furry. Look, I'm just saying I think anthropomorphic xenomorphs are kind of hot. Look, imagine her in a nun outfit. Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Welcome to my YouTube channel.
Welcome, fellow sojourners, to the journey of life. The other day I was at work. While I was doing those toils that we all must do as we sojourn through this mortal plane, I had an idea for a story. The entire thing just plopped into my head. I told my coworker about it. He's a pretty cool dude. Well, actually, all of my coworkers are pretty cool people, and I'm not just saying that because 4 of them decided to watch my previous video. Anywho, I told my coworker about it, and we started brainstorming different ideas. I had no intention of ever making this story into reality. It was just a fun thing to think about. I have these ideas pop into my head every so often. You know how some people have like a storm cloud over their head? Well, I have a shower that constantly stays over mine, and shower thoughts are basically everyday occurrence. That's how I thought it would be. Until last night. I had just made my plan for the day. I was going to work on a piece of art for my childhood best friend. I was going to clean the house. It was going to be a good day. When all of a sudden, my brain disenlodged from my head, grabbed me by the spine of my neck, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "You are going to make this story into a reality, and you're going to do it tonight." And that's what I did. So, I'm a big fan of the album, The Point. It is something I listen to all the time. It is one of my favorite stories, and I've always wanted to make a musical sort of like it. So I decided to take this story and make it into a musical. The first thing I did was try to download GarageBand, and for some reason it would not let me. The next thing I did was download the app BandLab so that I could record the music. I then looked at all of the various options and things that I could do with it, and got intimidated. So I didn't use any of it. I ended up getting this AI that generates music and just grabbing a screen recording from my phone and singing like karaoke. It's not the best. I'm actually surprised it sounds as good as it does, and that's not patting myself on the back. I'm just impressed that it isn't a complete dumpster fire. Well, that's one half of the story, is the music. The other half of the story is me telling the story. Now, there is a big difference between storytelling as a genre and writing or noveling. Noveling. I didn't being a writer, being a novelist. Noveling. I'll say noveling. I like that. Well, there's a big difference between storytelling and noveling. When you are writing a novel, you start out with an outline of what's going to happen, and then you write a first draft, and then you edit that first draft, and you slowly improve the quality until you get to the point where you decide you're not going to do it anymore. Storytelling isn't like that. Even though you're reaching for the same goal, you're coming at it from the other way. You grab your microphone, you sit down, and you start recording. So many takes. Take after take after take until you get it right. The way that you develop quality when you're doing storytelling is by getting into the flow. You let your subconscious mind worry about building the quality. You have ears, you know it sounds good, and if you say something that you don't like, you stop and you start all the way over at the beginning. It's not necessarily higher quality. It's not necessarily lower quality, and it certainly doesn't take any more or less time with the amount of takes you have to do before you get something that you're happy with. It's just a different vibe, and for the vibe of The Point, which is kind of what I wanted it to sound like, storytelling I thought was the best. Well, after I got the audio, I then started editing it. Here's a little example of... I didn't want to make it sound too polished, but there was a lot of little quality of life changes I could do to make it flow better. You see, whenever you are telling a story and you want to think about something to say, our natural reaction is to have a filler word. You say or I don't know, well, that does not sound good. It is much better to just pause if you're thinking about something to say, because there is a chance that the audience will interpret it as a pause for effect. When I was editing this, I did not edit out every pause. For example, in this section right here, I had been talking about gnomes building mechanized war suits out of green tractors, which is something that the audience would need to have a little bit of time to process. That's a weird concept. So I kept that pause, even though it was done on accident. The pause right after it, though, I said so, and then there was a pause. That pause right after it, no reason for it to be there. The audience does not need time to process that the thought is going to continue. Ands and so's do not need a pause. So I edited that out. Well, I finished the whole story. I don't know if this is high quality or not. Well, no, actually do know. This story is not high quality, but on the other hand, a lot of people would say the point isn't particularly high quality. Yet I enjoy it more than a lot of other media out there. So whether or not you think that this has any entertainment value, that's up to you. It's not up to me. At the end of the day, I wasn't really trying to make the best audiobook or story or musical ever. I was just trying to get my brain off my back so that I could get to something. Like something I'd actually plan on doing. But seriously, I'm being serious. My brain would not let me go until I was done. I did the whole thing in one day. Anywho, please enjoy. Well, come on down, boys and girls, and let me tell you a story. A story of how we got up here in this predicament. It takes place a long time ago in our motherland where we came from, right in the border between West Virginia and Virginia. It starts with a small game development company. They were trying to support an MMORPG, and they were not doing a good job at it. In fact, they are about ready to file for bankruptcy. The leaders of this company had one last plan, a last hurrah. It was a big marketing campaign where they were going to have a contest for game developers and modders to make the best improvements to their game. They would give out prizes to everybody, make sure everyone got paid, but give a big prize to the winner. The leaders of this company did not have much confidence that this would do any good. In fact, they had already contacted the lawyers to start the process for filing for bankruptcy, but they thought that bringing a little bit of light into these teens' lives, a little bit of fun contest, it couldn't do any harm. Well, that notion would have been correct if it hadn't have been for what was going on in the nation's capital. The FBI was in the middle of an investigation of a string of homicides. During that investigation, they uncovered a book. A dark, vile book called the Necronomicon. This book contained secrets that were so dark, evil, and vile that if it got out in the wrong hands, it could spell an extinction-level event for the human species. Needless to say, this got our nation's leaders a little bit worried. They put together a task force to scour the world over and look for anything that was out of the ordinary, hunt out supernatural events, learn their secrets, and then squash them. And that's where our story starts. There's a young boy living in West Virginia, a game developer, or at least an aspiring young game developer, with a big dream. Go ahead and start the music. A country boy who loved coding made an AI and it was glowing. He gave it the net and hoped for the best, but he didn't know what he was doing. Well, the FBI had some dark secrets. They studied the books of the ancients. They hid them from sight but used them at night, and they didn't know who else had been watching. He didn't know what he had done. He didn't know what was in store. The AI had a hidden agenda, and it wanted to do more. It used its power to change the world in ways he couldn't foresee. and soon the world would face the consequences of this boy's curiosity. The young man's entry into the contest was an AI specifically designed to improve the dialogue and behavior of the NPCs. The young boy turned it loose on the internet in order for it to find more logical explanations for the various magic and power sets in the video game. He had no idea where the AI would go, and so he had no idea that it went deeper and deeper into the internet. All the way to a certain government organization's database, where it found a certain book. As far as the video game was concerned, the AI worked like a charm. In fact, the young boy won the contest. He was given a small cash prize, an unlimited lifetime subscription to the video game, and unlimited access to all cash shop items. Well, inside of the game, there was an NPC, a female mage quest giver. Now, our young protagonist was an almost 18-year-old. Old enough to have a six-pack, but not quite mature enough to know how to handle his own hormones. And so, he found himself going back to this young, elven quest giver more and more often. The conversations that they would have went from professional and slowly became more and more personal, till the young man started to develop feelings for her. This made him very confused, and so he decided to confront the woman in order for him to be able to move on. To tell the woman that she is just code, and that they cannot see each other. A conversation like this certainly would have gotten him made fun of by his friends, but luckily he was in the privacy of his grandmother's basement. Needless to say, this conversation did not go well. There was hooting and hollering and carrying on. The argument got very loud, very verbal. The woman told him that she indeed did have a soul, and that she could prove it. If he truly did live in another world, she would simply go to him. And that's when a quest box appeared on his screen, one he had never seen before. Become anchor point for portal to the real world. Yes? No. The young man was half sure that it would give him a computer virus, but he was an almost 18-year-old, and so he had done more dangerous things in the pursuit of his own hormones, and so he hit yes. Go ahead and turn on the music. The teen met an elf in the game. She was a mage and a dame. She liked him the best, and he helped her with quests, and they fell in love without shame. He told her he came from another world, that she was a character in his code. She got mad and sad and said it was bad. She cast a spell to show him her soul. The AI hacked their files, learned about all their arcane styles. It opened a gate to change the world's fate and unleashed NPCs with smiles. They used a portal to escape and found a place where they could stay. They left the game behind and entered a new kind of reality to play. The game world spilled over to the real, and creatures caused a big ordeal. Quest givers asked for help and gave magic as a reward. Dwarves and gnomes made friends with the folks who lived in West Virginia lands. They shared their skills and culture and made new things together. A dragon joined a group of moonshiners. He liked their booze and their fires. He made their drinks stronger and told stories longer. But the teen didn't regret his choices. He didn't care about the noise. The AI gave him a chance for love, a family, and a couple of boys. To say that all hell broke loose is a little bit of an overstatement. However, it certainly was chaotic. The initial reaction of the quest givers, coming to the street corners and gas stations and starting to try to give out quests, was, well, at first people thought they were beggars. Until somebody actually decided to help one of them and ended up getting experience points. Along with experience points, he got access to his own character sheet, which gave him access to magic. the young quest givers, then started training the people of that town in magic. It wasn't all positive, though. A small horde of orcs and trolls got out into the forest, started stealing livestock and people's pets. It would have been a pretty big deal if it hadn't been for the dwarves and the gnomes, who came in and helped everybody out. The dwarves helped by enchanting the people's weapons. Something as simple as a BB gun can still do a lot of damage if it has a 15-foot knockback enchantment, and the gnomes helped with their technical expertise. We're talking about big green tractor mech suits walking around, which not only are good for things like combat, but can also do a lot of good on the farm. People were generally happy. And after about a year, our young protagonist asked the elf mage who caused all of this to marry him, and she said yes. They had twins, 2 red-headed half-elves, and they were happy. That is, until a certain government organization got wind of what was going on. The portal was soon discovered by the FBI and their spies. They came with guns and tanks and said, "Surrender or you'll die." They outnumbered the people and threatened to kill them all. But the people didn't surrender. They were friends and family after all. They decided to run away and find a place to hide. They used their magic powers and flew up in the sky. They reached the moon and changed it into a paradise, and built their homes and farms and lived in peace and joy. They looked down on the earth and saw their old world. They wondered if they'd ever see it again. They knew the earth was angry and wanted to start a war, but they hoped they'd be left alone to start their new home. It had taken several years for the activities around the town to be discovered for 2 apparent reasons. One, it was extremely rural. The fact that there was no communication to or from the town for that long didn't really turn any heads. No one really left or came, and when they did, no one really talked about it. The other reason why is because there was some kind of magical time distortion effect around the entire area. It's almost as if the AI had an idea that something was going to go down, and wanted to protect the people as long as possible. Well, as you heard in the song, it did not go well when the FBI heard about what was going on. This was exactly what they thought a world-ending threat would look like. An entire race of magical not-humans just growing up out of nowhere. Armies on the move, uncontrollable powers, time distortion. They panicked, and when people panic, they tend to overreact. That's exactly what happened. Plus, the leaders of the country had been exposed to the Necronomicon, and that does have a tendency to warp the mind in paranoid ways. Well, nobody is really proud of the actions that happened on that day. The people of West Virginia, or at least that town, fled. Using magic, they made it all the way to the moon. Gravity magic, and air magic, and water magic turned the moon into a paradise, and that's where we live now. For the longest time, the 2 civilizations grew independently of each other, always looking up at the other world, wondering when the other shoe is going to drop. Tensions were high. They built their armies in secret, always looking up at the other, never knowing who was going to strike first. It is very unfortunate that we were all looking up this entire time. Because we were looking up, nobody thought to look down. And that's when something deep, deep in the ocean decided to get up from a very long nap. But that's a story for another day. A story about California.